right. Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning devotions. And we are in First Kings chapter 2. It's the second devotion out of First Kings chapter 2. We're going to be looking at verses 13 through 25 in particular in regards to how corrupt Adonijah, the younger brother of Absalom, is, and how he is trying to, by deception and the use of the queen mother, try to weasel his way in to be the king. There are so many principles just in this section. And then what follows that is the demotion of Abiathar the priest because he sided with Absalom. Solomon's going to get rid of him. That what happens after that is Joab finds out what's going on. He runs for the hills. Benaiah kills him. And then there is this deal that Solomon makes with Shimei that after 3 years he breaks and he's executed. So I entitled this The Execution of Adonijah, Joab, and Shimei. You have the demotion of Abiathar and the promotion of Benaiah into Joab's place. That all happens here. All of this is getting Solomon established as the king. At the front end of his reign, there is so much to do, so many hard decisions that he has to make. That's why David says, you got to just, get in the saddle here because what you're up against here to establish yourself as the king is going to be, for a while, it's going to be a tough pull. And Solomon, even in his youth, and this is before we read about the prayer for wisdom, he is already endowed with wisdom. He, as a young man, has observed what's happening with his dad and with his brothers. He's grown up as royalty. He's watched how things work and what doesn't work, and he's utilizing these things. So let's look first at Adonijah, because there's so much to learn here. And in the middle of this, now remember, I don't know exactly how old Bathsheba is, all right? But Adonijah is a weasel. I mean, I told that to my pastor. He laughs because there's some guys that are they're just manipulators, and that's what we see here with Adonijah. And if you run into one of these manipulators, and you will, how they manipulate people, unsuspecting people, to do things for them that they can't do on their own because they need a way to weasel their way in. I'm using all these little metaphors. That's what Adonijah's doing. And remember, let's go back. I'm not going to read it again, but Solomon says that if you act like a righteous man, if you can do what's right, then everything's fine. But if there's wickedness found in you, then I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. So here is Adonijah in his last foray into trying to be the king. It's full of lies. It's full of deception. And then you should see how Solomon speaks to his mom. It's just fascinating. If I don't get any further through here, I think we need to internalize this passage, because this passage of Scripture, if we understand what Solomon is doing here, will save the church and save your home just so much heartache. Because Solomon is going to circuit this because he understands that this little question that Bathsheba is asking, it's just such a small thing, actually, because she doesn't understand what she's saying, is going to involve the whole kingdom. And that's when the saints look at the pastor and say, that's such a small thing. Except the pastor, if he's got his wits about him, or the dad, if he's got his wits about him, or anybody, if they've got their wits about them, they'll hear a question and people say, that's just a simple question. That can be easily answered, and there's nothing really big to it. It's a molehill. When those that understand what the ramifications of the question are, and if the answer isn't given appropriately, it's gigantic. The implications, the ramifications for yielding to this little tiny little question are just astronomical. And here is the example. And when this comes up, now it's Solomon, so nobody can argue with him. He's the king. But the point is, when this happens to you or me, or if I'm talking to a pastor here, I mean, you just got to dig in, because the alternative is a disaster, all right? we are not the Lord over God's people and all of that. I'm just talking about in the things that come across your desk. Some things they say, oh, it's just a small thing, and usually when somebody brings you something that's a small thing, I would just say, in my experience, it's never a small thing. It's like saying it's a minor surgery. You know, these guys, it's a minor surgery. Well, are they cutting into me? Well, yeah. Are they going to knock me out with the anesthesia? How long am I going to be out? How much are you going to give me? How much digging around in there are you going to do? Oh, it's a minor surgery. Yeah, that's the way we talk. Adonijah says this is a minor question, but really what's at risk here is the health of the whole body of Israel. All right, here we go. So, in Adonijah, verse 13, and Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. She's an older lady, all right? And he's coming to her because she's going to be a soft touch. She's going to just be a sweetheart, and she's going to bring her motherly sweetness to the king. This is how corrupt this guy is. To go after, to use a man's mother for your own ambition. And I think this is what's happening. All right. And Solomon deals kindly here, but the whole idea is the enemy is going to go to the way of least resistance. Remember when Adonijah is having his big bash because he's going to install himself as king, you don't invite Solomon. No, you leave Solomon out. You don't invite Benaiah. You don't invite Zadok. You don't invite Nathan. You don't invite those guys because they are not a soft touch. They don't belong in your escapades to overthrow David and to install yourself as king. You look for somebody that is less critical and just is just kind-hearted, and somebody that is basically just innocent of what's going on here, and you use them because you can't do it face-to-face with somebody that you know is going to understand directly what's going on. You need a cushion, and that's what Adonijah is doing here. Only he's using Solomon's mother, the queen mother Bathsheba. So how low will guys go to wreck things? How low will they go? If you're going to manipulate a guy's mom so she'll come to him and ask for questions, now it's the queen mother. I know this is David's widow, so she's the queen mother. But the point is, how low will people go? And here we have one of these examples of just the poverty of morality here in Adonijah. So he goes to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, and she said, "Comest thou peaceably?" And he said, "Peaceably." So they're just going to have a chat, just a chat. It's only going to be a chat. It's a minor thing. It's a chat. It's everything's good. And he said, "Moreover, I have somewhat to say to thee." And I said, "There's something I need to talk to you about." And Bathsheba said, "Say on." Well, go ahead. Now listen to this. He opens with a bald-faced lie. All right? That's what he opens with here. He says this. If you're talking to somebody that's not going to evaluate what you say critically, you can tell them anything because you know they're just going to absorb it. You see, people don't like talking to people that think critically about what they're hearing because they have questions to ask about what the veracity of what's actually being said. But if you can find somebody that is just happy and joyful and not critical, and I'm not talking about being unchristian. I'm talking to put, this is living faith now. This is actually making decisions because we trust God, all right? We don't just, we're vigilant. We keep our heads up, right? Our heads are on a swivel, all right? Spiritually speaking, right? Not Bathsheba. So he starts with a lie, and she's just going to soak it all up because if you tried this on Zadok, Nathan, or Benaiah or Solomon, these men who are in leadership now are going to say, "What are you talking about? None of that's true." That is what should have come out of Bathsheba's mouth but she's not in the mix. She's the queen mother. Let's just talking to his mother. And it says, Oh, wait, I got to stop here. My mom would not take this. I hope your mom wouldn't either. No, if my mom would bring the Bible to bear on this and say, wait a minute, I don't think that's right. Just because you're the mother doesn't mean you have to be gullible, is the point. All I'm saying in this passage of Scripture, Bathsheba is trying to, she's just going to let this ride. It doesn't matter how old you are. And see, I'm going back to my older lady story here, because here's another older lady. She could be just as wise as the woman that pitched Sheba's head over the wall. Yeah, she could have done that. She could have said, it's not in the biblical record, but Bathsheba could have said, wait, what you just said is treasonous. I'm telling Benaiah, and that's the end of you. You see, that would be another possible world that does not exist, but it could have been the biblical record if it had gone the other way, but it didn't, right? That's what we're talking about. You can find the better way to do things, but I'm just telling you what the text says, what Bathsheba did. So he starts with a bald-faced lie, and she buys it. So here it is. He said, thou knowest. Like, the first thing they want you to know is we don't think that the person we're talking to is stupid. That's the first thing. You already know this. You see, you appeal to their self-righteousness, and you appeal to their pride. You don't come to somebody that you're trying to manipulate and speak down to them. No, because you need them on your side. So he starts off, thou knowest. You already know this. Except what he says she already knows is not true, because really she doesn't know this. But he's gathering her in with this, the way he approaches things. When somebody comes to you that way, tuck this in the back of your head. If somebody comes telling you what you already know, just sit back. I mean, I've been in the company of some religious leaders, ecclesiastical type leaders that were some of the most crooked men I've ever met. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just because you're working for a mission board or you're on some kind of agency doesn't mean that you're a righteous man. It just means you're a good politician, and you're really good at what Adonijah is doing here. And I'm not questioning their salvation. I'm just saying these guys are weasels. They're slippery. All right? There's men like that. You just got to... So if somebody starts telling you what you already know, you know what you know. You don't need to be told what you know. All right? That's how he starts, because he's just he wants you already coming over on his side. He says, thou knowest that the kingdom was mine. Oh, yeah? Bathsheba knows that? Nobody knew that. The only ones that knew that were those confederate with him that were at the party. David already said the kingdom's not yours, it's Solomon. So no, she doesn't know this. This is a ploy. Manipulating a tender mind. Listen, you see these posts about being nice, and I don't think anybody's ever going to accuse me of being nice. I mean, the point is, what we need to be able to do is adjudicate wisely. In every word here, he's using to manipulate. If you're nice here, you're going to fold because you want to get along with Adonijah. Listen, Solomon, when he hears this, he's not only not going to get along with Adonijah, he's going to have him executed for trying to overthrow the kingdom again. You see, this is the time to be stalwart, to be discerning, to be wise, to listen carefully, to not get sucked in by some smooth talker. They're everywhere. I have used the word for the church gullible my whole life since I was a kid. Everybody that knows me knows I've been in the church my whole life with the ministries of my dad, missionary in the ministry, and then my life. I've been in the church my whole life, and what I have witnessed are people that believe about anything you tell them, all right? That's why you got to be careful with sheep to tell them the truth, all right? Anyway, let's keep going. He says, thou knowest that the kingdom was mine. No, it wasn't. And that all Israel set their faces on me. No, they didn't. The national celebration and the blowing of the trumpets and the playing of the instruments and what Joab said was a tumult were the people acknowledging Solomon. The only ones that were acknowledging Adonijah here were the guys at his party. And when they found out that he had been that Solomon had been anointed king, they all ran for the hills. None of this is true. He's lying to Bathsheba to get his way. He said that I should reign. Howbeit the kingdom is turned about. It's not turned about. Somehow it was always mine, he's saying, and somehow it got turned around and given to my kid brother. He's only 20. How in the world did he get there? Now I'm adding that. But it got turned about, and it became my brother's because it was always mine. But then it ends up Solomon's. This is the case he's making. None of this is true. It's one big lie, one fabricated lie, one lie to promote himself to the queen mother Bathsheba. He said, for it was his from the Lord. And now I ask and then he says, for it was his from the Lord, which is very interesting. It's almost like he's, it's not almost like he's arguing, almost in a very religious way, okay? He goes on, he says, verse 16, and now I ask one petition of thee. I'm only asking one thing. Deny me not. Please don't say no. Don't ever do that. Don't give an answer before you know the question, right? If somebody says this, just say, I got to hear it first. Is that so tough? Oh, no, but if you have a tender heart, you just give it up. I have to back that up just a little. I have to back that up just a little because I'm just thinking of those that love you, that are not there. I mean, that are not trying to manipulate anything. It's just, it's a matter of faith and trust and love. Okay, I'll give you that. All right. Because if you say, I'm thinking if Annette came to me, she said, just tell me yes. I'm going to just say, yeah, tell me yes. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's different here though, right? This is talking about based on this crazy lie to Bathsheba. He said, and now I ask one petition of thee, deny me not. And she said unto him, say on, like, go ahead. And he said, speak, I pray thee, unto Solomon the king, for he will not say thee nay. And there it is. If you ask him, he'll never tell his mom no. You see. And let me just say something. I think in almost any way between a son and a mother on that level, remember, I've made the distinctions between your professional responses and your personal responses. I think in a personal response between Bathsheba and Solomon, I don't think he probably told her no hardly ever. He's gonna be Solomon. I mean, he's gonna be the wisest man that ever lived. He's gonna be loaded. I mean, Bathsheba is just gonna be blessed over and over and over because of the advancement and the decision making of her son. This, however, is when your mom delves into the professional life of the king. That's what's happening here. This isn't like, I would like a new house to Solomon. I would like a new house on the lake. Solomon says, how big do you want it? How much gold do you want on it, Mom? I would like another car. He said, oh, how many? I mean, this is Solomon, all right, with his mom. It doesn't say it here, but I'm saying I don't think he would ever tell her no. But now she's walked into his office now, not the family living room. That's what's going to happen here. She's now working in the professional realm of the kingdom with this question. That's what she does not understand. That's what she does not understand. So she said, and he says this, and this is what Adonijah wants. Speak, I pray thee, unto Solomon the king, for he will not say thee nay, that he give me Abishag the Shunammite to wife. That's all he wants. The nurse. He wants to marry King David's nurse. The one that never had intimate relationship with David, but was actually in his bedroom, slept with him to keep him warm. I'm not going through all that again. Was his nurse to care for the old king. All right. She was there when Nathan came in. She was there when Bathsheba came in. It says as a woman would love her dad or love her grandfather. That's the way she loved David. And but there was a close association. That's the point. A very, very close association between Abishag and David as his nurse. So what's happening here is it just slipped my mind again. Adonijah says, "I'd like to marry his nurse." Adonijah says, "I'd like to marry his nurse." And Bathsheba's thinking, what's the harm in that? And there you have it. What's the harm in marrying someone that is this closely related to the king? All right. By association, only by association, but very closely associated to the king, especially right at the end of his life. All right. So let's keep going. And Bathsheba said, "Well, I will speak for thee unto the king." Yeah, I'll take this to the king. All right. Because she's just on board now because she doesn't think it's a big deal. This passage of scripture has to get us to evaluate what we hear more critically. I mean, spiritually critically. When I say critically, sometimes people think, in a harsh way. When I say critically, I don't mean harshly. I mean thoroughly. I mean, if it should be examined critically, that means you go through it. It's like these guys. I'm going to get off a little field here. If you don't look at things critically, do you remember this guy? I think it was down in where was it? Down in Atlanta, who turned in a paper, and everybody thought it was just outstanding paper. I mean, it was just. I mean, it was a PhD type paper, okay? Except when somebody evaluated it critically, they come to find out all the footnotes were manufactured. There's no real people that really wrote those books to support his argument. All right, these people did not exist, and that the whole paper was a fraud because they had looked at it on the outside and they said, well, the argument is sound and it makes a great case, but the fact is it was fabricated out of whole cloth. That is, there's no truth to any of it. The whole thing was a fraud. Now you say to yourself, well, you really ruined that guy's life. Well, either that or you just let this falsehood stand as a PhD paper. All right? That's what I'm trying to say. If you're going to look at it critically, then you have to look this stuff up. And you say, I looked that footnote up. I can't find this guy. I can't find that book. And as soon as you say that, you're throwing a monkey wrench into everybody that's already said, yeah, good. Except you say, have you looked at any of these footnotes? These guys don't exist. Now, who's the bad guy? Well, for a while, the guy that says these footnotes don't exist is the bad guy. But after people finally coalesce around the fact that the whole thing's been fabricated, the bad guy is going to be the guy that fabricated the whole thing. All right, and he did not earn the decree because he just generated the whole thing in his head. All right, it's not based on anything. Anyway, when I say critical, that's what I mean. You got to look at it more than he wants to marry Abishag. It's not a big deal. Who is he trying to marry? And this is where Solomon has this insight. He looks at it considering the whole realm. And he said, I desire one petition of thee. Wait, verse 19. And Bathsheba therefore went unto King Solomon to speak unto him for Adonijah. She's going to speak for Adonijah. If you're going to speak for somebody, you better make sure that you guys are on the same page. I mean, there are some men I know I could speak for, and there are some men that could speak for me. But there's not very many. There's not very many. They don't know me well enough, or I don't know them well enough. All right? That number of people is very, very, very small. And think about it. Just put yourself there. Who can speak for you? All right? I mean, if you have one person that could speak for you, that would be like outstanding. Like, I'm pretty sure my boys, my daughter could do it. All right, my wife, my family, but and then there's a handful of guys that I've known a long time that could do it. All right, but you can't let people speak for you unless there's no way to know for sure. You just have to make sure that you and that individual are aligned, and that what that individual is saying is what you want said. That's tough. I'm just throwing that out there, but that's what she's doing. She's engaged in a really tough thing. But in this case, it's only one question, and it's a small thing. Let's keep going. So she goes in, she's speaking to him for Adonijah, and the king rose up to meet her and bowed himself unto her, because it's his mom. This is great. The king is honoring his mom. There you go. The king bowing to mom. This is why you get long life. Honor your father and your mother. The king could have sat on his throne, and in comes his mom, and you know, waiting for mom to bow. That's not what it says here. It says, the king rose up to meet her. He gets off his throne. He goes to meet her. And bowed himself unto her, to his mom, Bathsheba. Oh, that's great. For all the dads and all the moms, you got to teach this to your boys. All right? Doesn't matter where they are, to honor your mom. All right? What if you're the king of Israel? All right? Yeah. Yeah. But remember I said, but as the king, he could sit on the throne because he's the king. But as the son of the mom, he honors his mom. All right? It's wonderful. It said, and it says, he bowed himself unto her and sat down on his throne and caused a seat to be set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right hand. So they brought in a chair or whatever, another big thing and they're sitting there together now. Mom and son, Bathsheba and Solomon. What a great picture. And she said, and I love this. She said, I desire one small petition of thee. What I'm about ready to ask you is just a little thing. It's nothing, son. It's like I'm sorry I have to take your time. Okay, I mean I just got a small thing to ask you, and I'm sure it's not going to be a problem. All right, one small petition of thee, and it says, I pray thee, say me not nay. Same thing, because it's not a big deal. All right, and the king said unto her, ask on, my mother, for I will not say thee nay. See, that goes back to what I said about like. Your mom, who's going to tell your mom no? That's where you start, because, of course, you don't know what she's going to say yet. But if my mom said, ask me something, I said, sure. Unless it was like, wow, that's what's going to happen here. Solomon's going to have this wow moment, like, whoa, mom. It says, and she said, let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah thy brother to wife. Uh-oh. We got out of the living room. We're back in the throne room now, Mom. Now we're talking about something that involves Dad, who's now in heaven, the nurse that took care of him, and the throne. And we already know about Adonijah, Mom. We already know that he tried to take it over before it was pointed in my direction, and I was anointed, and I'm sitting here on the throne. And here it is. Here's Solomon's response. And King Solomon answered and said unto his mother, why dost thou ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Why are you asking this? See, this is critical. Now he's asking his mom a pointed question. Why are you doing this? And then it says this. If you're going to do that, and here this verse is powerful. Ask for him the kingdom also. You're going to ask for the Shunammite? You might just as well ask for the whole kingdom. He said, for he is mine elder brother. And then he goes on and says this. This is so good, because these guys all run together. He said, if you're going to ask for Adonijah, then even for him and Abiathar the priest, which was confederate with him, you're asking for Abiathar to be the priest. And Joab the son of Zeruiah, you're asking for him to be the general. All of this is in the bailiwick that comes with Adonijah, because this is a political movement. And you're doing something to promote a schism, Mom. That's what he's saying here. She said it's a small thing. He said it's going to be the death of us if we let this ride. This whole plan is just to run us out, Mom. That's what he's saying. He said, and King Solomon, and then it says this, then King Solomon sware by the Lord, saying, God do so to me and more also if Adonijah have not broken his word against his own life. Remember, he said not to act wickedly. This manipulation of the queen mother, this whole idea of asking for Abishag, this whole idea if he comes on the scene and he's promoted, then that will be a signal to promote Abiathar as well, which is going to be kicked out, and Joab, who's going to be executed here in just a little bit. All of this is in this bailiwick. If we do this, okay, it's pointing us in the wrong direction. Now, therefore, as the Lord liveth, which hath established me and set me on the throne of David my father, who hath made me an house, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death this day. There it is. Because he did not do well. It's what we read back here. He said, let's see if I can find it again. Yeah, here it is. I was looking right at it. Verse 52, and Solomon said, if he will show himself a worthy man, there shall not a hair of him fall. And then it goes on, fall to the earth, but if wickedness be found in him, he shall die. And there it is. He's already said that. He's trying to manipulate the whole thing by asking you to come to me for this question, which is going to set a trajectory, which is going to be against everything that David did and what God did in putting me here. He says, so he's not going to survive the day. In verse 25, and King Solomon sent by the hand of Adonijah, the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. And that is the end of Adonijah. Oh, man. I'll tell you. Yeah, you don't want to mess around with this, because he's hoping that Solomon is just too young and green, and he's going to go along with his mom, and then he's going to make this one mistake, and that one mistake would have been the ruin of the whole kingdom, because he wants to identify with the king, and the people would have said, yeah, we might have made a mistake with this young guy, because look, Bathsheba went to the Solomon, and he gave her the nurse, okay, the Shunammite, Abishag, and so, I mean, there's going to be a contest at least, but we know where he's going because of the case he made. He said, really, in the beginning, it was always mine. No, it wasn't. Okay, another morning devotions, all right? I hope you enjoy this, okay? Well, the Lord bless you. You have a great day, and Lord willing, I will see everybody tomorrow, all right? We'll see you.